Well, thank you so much for the warm welcome. I wanted to first begin and thank the amazing founder and president of the Endowment for Middle East Truth, Sarah Stern, right here, for her extraordinary leadership. And thank you to Chairman of the Board of Directors, David Green, for inviting me to be here today and honoring me, and I'm so truly humbled, with the Speaker of Truth Award. As you all know, Emmett is a leading voice here in Washington and around the world, sharing the truth about Israel, the Middle East, and the United States foreign policy in the region. And as you all know, and the world knows, the stakes have never been higher for America and for Israel. And I want you all to know, Israel and the Jewish people hold a very special place in my heart. I grew up in upstate New York. I attended an all-girls day school right next door to a synagogue. From attending bat and bar mitzvahs of my friends, to joining family friends at their homes for Shabbat dinner, to attending Shabbat dinner while an undergrad at Harvard, I would go with friends to Harvard Hillel, to celebrating Brit Tot for friends' sons, to signing the ketubah at a friend's wedding. My love and respect for the Jewish people is lifelong, and it is deep, and it predates my time in the U.S. Congress. And I have been blessed many times to visit Israel even before I was a member of Congress. My first trip to Israel was as an undergraduate when I was selected as an undergrad fellow for the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Yes, lots of FDD fans here. And I have been many times since, returning as a member of Congress on the House Intelligence Committee and the House Armed Services Committee, and most recently to deliver a speech to the Knesset and meet with Prime Minister Netanyahu. Each and every one of these visits to Israel underscores to me the fundamental facts that Israel is a miracle and that Israel is foundational to the United States and the American dream. As I referenced earlier this year, I had the humble honor of addressing Israeli leaders in the hallowed halls of the Knesset. And I assured them that the vile anti-Semitism spewed in once elite higher education institution does not reflect the views of the American people. And let me be clear on this most important fact. The American people stand firmly behind Israel and the Jewish people. Everyday Americans, whether it's in my district upstate New York or all across our beautiful country, they understand that Israel's fight is not Israel's alone, and that the same pro-Hamas terrorist sympathizers who chant death to Israel, they also chant death to America. These terrorists want to topple Israel, topple the U.S., and we must never yield. And we will never surrender. That's part of why I have sponsored and supported every measure to aid Israel that has come before the United States Congress, every single one. And it's why, as a senior member on the House Armed Services Committee and the Intelligence Committee, I'm proud to have secured billions of dollars for Iron Dome, David Sling, Iron Beam, anti-tunneling technology, counter-UAS systems, and further development of emerging technologies. And it's why I led the calls for the White House to speak out against the corrupt ICC and led on legislation to sanction members of the ICC who baselessly go after American and allied leaders and troops. And it is why, for years, I have been a leading proponent and partner to President Trump in his historic support for Israeli independence and security. And it is also why I've led the fight against anti-Semitism in our higher education institutions. Following a skyrocketing number of attacks against Jewish students on campuses across America, I demanded Congress hold a public hearing on the committee on which I serve, the Education and Workforce Committee, to hold colleges and university leaders accountable for their moral failures. Now, I want to ask you this. I ask every room. How many of you saw that hearing with the university presidents? Should I say now former presidents? 2 down, so many to go. And it's not just this room, the world saw that hearing. And I want to take you into that moment. That question was the last question of the hearing. The most junior member of the committee yielded me her remaining 3 minutes. And I had asked questions earlier, going back and forth with the president of Harvard, my former alma mater, now former president, important to note, and I was just not getting direct answers. So when thinking through this last question, which was not prepared, I thought to myself, how can I ask this in the most straightforward, moral way to force them to answer correctly? And that question was this: does calling for the genocide of Jews violate your university's code of conduct on bullying and harassment? And one after the other, they answered, quote, "It depends on the context." And the world heard, let me tell you, it does not depend on the context. Within 1 week, that testimony became the most viewed testimony in the history of the United States Congress. 1 billion views worldwide in 1 week, and now it's in the multiple billions. And that is because it exposed the moral rot at the highest levels of these so-called elite universities. That hearing set off a long overdue earthquake, a wake-up call that anti-Semitism and anti-Israel hate will not and must not be tolerated. And the problem was never just about those individual university presidents. There is a pervasive rot of anti-Semitism infecting our institutions across the board. Disgraceful attempts to contextualize the genocide of Jews is a symptom of decades of moral decay, intellectual laziness, and dangerous radical left groupthink at so-called elite institutions across society. And this fight is far from over. It is just the beginning. And you have my commitment. I will continue to help lead this fight to combat the scourge of anti-Semitism across this country and the world, bringing long overdue moral leadership to another institution that has succumbed to moral decay. As I said at the outset of my speech, we are in a critical and historic moment for Israel, America, the Jewish people, and the world. But with President Trump back in the White House, there will be a return to clear and morally strong leadership. President Trump will bring peace through strength policies to the world stage once again, and standing with our most precious ally, Israel, in this most important time of need. And I am honored to join President Trump in this fight, earning his nomination to serve in his cabinet as the United States ambassador to the United Nations to restore America first. And most egregiously, this includes UNRWA, an organization which had nearly 24 employees directly involved in the October 7th terrorist attacks, an organization that had a Hamas data center underneath its Gaza headquarters and employs another 100 individuals with terrorist ties. It is an indisputable fact that President Trump has the strongest record of any American president when it comes to standing with Israel. President Trump is known as the best friend that Israel has ever had, according to Prime Minister Netanyahu, and we know President Trump's list of accomplishments are many. President Trump moved the U.S. Embassy to its rightful place, Israel's eternal capital of Jerusalem. President Trump successfully negotiated and delivered the historic Abraham Accords, the greatest stride towards peace normalization in more than a quarter century. And this is important. President Trump aligned U.S. Central Command with Israel, a change that fostered daily communications with the IDF, joint exercises, and crucial coordination with British and Arab partners that helped defend against the unprecedented Iranian attacks directly towards Israel this year. And importantly, President Trump eliminated every dollar of U.S. funding to UNRWA and called it out for what it is, a hive of anti-Semitism. And I believe it is quite obvious to the world that if President Trump were in the White House today, what has been happening at the UN would never have happened, because October 7th would never have happened under President Trump's watch. And today we are gathered here, 409 days since October 7th. You all know, and we make sure the world knows every day, we put this fact out, there are still over 100 hostages, including 7 Americans, being held by Hamas. We must not stop, and we will not stop until every hostage is brought home. You have my commitment, as I have led this fight in Congress against vile anti-Semitism. I will stand up for President Trump's America First, peace through strength policies and bring moral truth and crystal clear moral clarity at the United Nations on day one. Thank you very much for this tremendous honor. God bless Israel, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you so much. Thank you.